Yes, sir.
So in the last class, we have dealt with the basic anatomy and morphology of the functioning of the nervous system. In that, we have dealt with the classification of nervous system, different parts of brain, the structure of brain, uh, meninges, the different meninges, function of the meninges, the different spaces in between the meninges. We have also discussed about the particular feature of the blood vessels of brain, about the perivascular cuffing, about the blood-brain barrier in detail, also about CSF, formation, drainage of CSF, the different ventricles inside the brain and their communication, and we have started about the pathological conditions of the brain. So let me revise in very short. First, the first condition in congenital anomalies was the anencephaly, that is absence of the brain, acrania, that is absence of the cranial bone, amylia, absence of a spinal cord, cranioschisis, cleft in the cranial bone, encephalocele, herniation of the brain, naturally along with the meninges, microencephaly, a small brain, meningocele, herniation of the meninges only, not the brain, rachis, hernia of the spinal cord. These were some important congenital anomalies. And we have also discussed the inflammatory condition of the brain. As you know, the brain is called as encephalon. So encephalitis is the inflammation of the brain. Myelion stands for spinal cord. So myelitis is the inflammation of the spinal cord. Encephalomyelitis, it is the inflammation of brain and spinal cord. Meninges is inflammation of the meninges. Pachymeningitis is inflammation of the tough layer of the meninges, that is the dura mater. Leptomeningitis is inflammation of the pia mater. Second is meningoencephalomyelitis, inflammation of meninges, brain, spinal cord. Poliomyelitis, inflammation of gray matter of the spinal cord. And if you talk about the inflammation of the white matter, it will be leukomyelitis. Similarly, there is a term encephalomalacia. Malacia stands for softening, degeneration, necrosis of that part. So if it is encephalomalacia, it is encephalomalacia stands for softening of the brain due to degeneration and necrosis. And if it is polioencephalomalacia, it is the necrosis in the gray matter of the brain part. And if it is leukoencephalomalacia, it is the degeneration, necrosis of the white matter of the brain part. Okay. Encephalomalacia, softening and necrosis of the brain. Polioencephalomalacia, softening and necrosis of the gray matter. And leukoencephalomalacia is softening and necrosis of the white matter of the brain. Okay. Next, coming to the disturbances in the neuromuscular function. So due to disturbances, there can be increased muscular activity, which is called as spasm. There can be decrease in the muscular contractility. It is paralysis or paresis. So in a spasm, there is sudden violent involuntary contraction. It is not under your will, but it is involuntary and it is very violent contraction of muscle. It is called as spasm. And if this spasm is continuous, it is called as tonic. And if it is intermittent, it is called as clonic. Okay. Next is tremor. When the spasm is of mild nature and confined to a group of muscles, it is better called as tremors. And when it is widespread, involving the whole body, it is called as convulsion. So tremor confined to a muscles, it is called as, sorry, spasm confined to a muscle is called as tremor, and a spasm widespread and involving the whole body is called as convulsions. So there is slight difference between the tremor and convulsion. Next is epilepsy. When there is alteration of the alternate manifestation of intermittent and continuous spasm, that is tonic and clonic spasm, it is better called as epilepsy. Paralysis is complete immobility of the muscles. When any part of the body do not function due to some dearrangement of the nervous system, there is complete loss of performance action of muscles. It is called as paralysis. When there is incomplete loss of the function, it is called as paralysis. So paralysis is complete dysfunctioning of a muscle, and paralysis is incomplete loss of function. Next is hemiplegia. Hemiplegia means half part, that is unilateral part. Divide the body into two symmetry, left and right. Either in the left or in the right, if there is paralysis, it is hemiplegia. That is unilateral paralysis, either in the left or in the right. If there is problem in the right part of the brain, if right part of the brain is not functioning properly, it means there will be the paralysis in the left part. And if left part of the brain is not functioning properly, it means there will be paralysis in the right part, because the left part of the brain controls the right part of the body, and the right part of the brain controls the left part of the body. Okay. Another term is paraplegia. Paraplegia stands for paralysis in the posterior part of the body, that is beyond your waist, in the legs particularly. When the legs, the waist, below the hip bones, if the body is not functioning, it has become paralysis, but it is bilateral. Both of the legs will be not functioning. In the posterior part of the body, if there is no functioning due to some pathology in the nervous system, it is called as paraplegia. So hemiplegia is either in the left or right. Paraplegia is in the posterior part, that is involving the both of the limbs. And the most important topic, reaction of nervous tissue to injury. It is most often asked in the exam. Reaction of nervous tissue to injury. What does it mean? If there is some injury, maybe chemical injury, physical injury, microbial injury, immunological injury, any sort of injury to the brain, then the neurons particularly, actually it should be a reaction of neurons to injury. The most important thing is reaction of neurons to injury. No doubt other part of the brain also react, this supporting cells also react, but we will deal here with the neurons, how the neurons react against any injury. So you know that the infection or any noxious agent comes to the brain either by blood or by lymph or through the peripheral nerve. It is carried uh, centripetally in ascending manner from the peripheral nerves to the brain, or maybe by blood or lymph. The irritant may reach to the brain. On reaching the brain, they cause some pathology, some dysfunctioning, and accordingly the neurons react to it. So what are the important reactions you must remember? So first thing is shrinkage of the neurons, shrinkage of the neurons. So how can you say that the neurons has shrinked? If you see this diagram, the upper diagram is the normal neuron, and this lower diagram, this is the shrinkage of the neurons. So the size shrinks, the nucleus shrinks, there is even loss of the Nissel's granules. In simple necrosis, when you tell that the nucleus is pycnosed, what do you mean? The nucleus has become condensed and more strained. Similarly, in case of brain also, at the time of shrinkage, the nucleus became pycnotic, a small, high strained, condensed, This condition is called as shrinkage. So first point we must write, it is the shrinkage of the neurons against any injurious agent. It may be the neurons may shrink or the neurons may swell depending on the agent, depending on the reaction. There may be shrinkage or swelling of the neurons, just like cloudy swelling. The neurons will get swollen. Next is the vacuolation. In case of some toxicity or some viral infection, you can see the vacuolation. So in this diagram, when you see these spaces, these white spaces, these are the cross sections of the axons. These black spots are the cross sections of the axon, and surrounding the axons, you can see vacuolations. Even inside the cytoplasm of the cell body, neuron cell body, you can see presence of vacuolation. So vacuolation is also a reaction of neuron against any injury. Next is chromatolysis. In case of chromatolysis, this is the normal neuron, no? Cell body of a neuron. This is a nucleus, and this is the Nissls granules. These black spots, blue spots are the Nissls granules, cytoplasm of the cell body. In case of chromatolysis, the Nissl substance gradually disappear. This will disappear. This is normal. But in case of chromatolysis, this Nissl substance will disappear and this nucleus is pushed towards a periphery. The nucleus become eccentric. In this two diagram, C denotes for chromatolysis. You can see there is absence, disappearance of the Nissl granules and the nucleus has become eccentric towards the cell membrane. It has moved at a corner. This is called as eccentric nucleus and the cytoplasm is showing absence of Nissl granules. This condition is called as chromatolysis. Here you can also see these are normal neurons. This is the nucleus. This is the Nissl granules. This is the nucleus. This is the Nissl granules. But this condition shows the chromatolysis. Whole Nissl granules has disappeared and the nucleus has been pushed towards the periphery. So this is the diagram showing chromatolysis. This lower one. The above three neurons are normal and this lower one is the chromatolysis, showing chromatolysis. Next is neuronophasia. Phase means eating, neurons means neuron means neurons. That is the neurons which gets degenerated. The neurons which get died, they are removed from the brain by the action of some phagocytic cells, particularly these microglia. So when in the brain a neurons die, you will see surrounding the dead neuron, there will be the accumulation of microglia cells, lymphocytes, and even the oligodendroglia. Most important is the microglia. Since microglia are phagocytic cells of the nervous system, they are responsible for phagocytosing, destruction, and removal of the dead neurons by the process of phagocytosis. Okay, so this is the neuron which has died. In this diagram, you see that this is the neuron cell body where no Nissl granules, no nucleus, nothing is visible. It means it has died. After death, the macroglial cells has accumulated around the dead neurons for phagocytosis. So in the process, with time, these neurons will be get phagocytosed by these macrophages, this macroglia, and this condition is known as neuronophasia. Okay. In this condition, there is huge accumulation of macrophages and lymphocytes around a damaged neurons. You can see this round nucleus is the lymphocytes and this elliptical nucleus is the microglia. So almost it appears as a nodule due to huge accumulation of these cells in part of brain. You can see the focal formation of nodular appearance, nodule-like appearance. It is huge accumulation of macrophages, and lymphocytes. In human medicine, I have not read anywhere the presence of oligodendroglaya in case of neurophagia or phagocytosis, but in veterinary book, there is mentioned oligodendroglaya. So it can be doubtful. Usually it is the microglia and the macrophages, these lymphocytes, which are responsible. Oligodendroglaya has a different role, but it is written in some books also. Cytolytosis. Cytolytosis is the accumulation of oligodendroglaya. Oligodendroglaya nearby the uh, neurons. Usually a neuron have 1 to 2 oligodendroglaya near them, but in case when the accumulation of oligodendroglaya increases around the neurons, it is better called as cytolytosis. Why? When a neuron gets damaged, they, these oligodendroglaya, when gets accumulated, it is better called as cytolytosis. And when the microglia gets accumulated, it is better called as neuronophagia. So remember, in case of neuronophagia, it is microglia, and in case of cytolytosis, it is oligodendron. Okay. So in this diagram, you can see this is a necrosed neurons, dead neurons, and near to them has accumulated the oligodendria cells. It is called as cytolytosis. Okay. In this diagram, so that was the reaction of neurons against any irritating agent. Now we'll talk about the different supporting cells of the brain. You know, these neuroglial cells or the supporting cells of the brain are astrocytes, microglia, oligodendrocytes, and also these ependymal cells. So in this diagram, you can see their presence, their structure, even their function. So how do astrocyte appear? Like a star. Astro means star. Star-shaped cells is called as astrocytes. You can see there is numerous process in a astrocytes, and also they attach with the basement membrane of the blood vessels, leading to blood-brain barrier. So one function of astrocyte is in the formation of blood-brain barrier, and the other function is it holds the neurons also. You can see the process of the astrocytes are in contact with the neurons also. This yellow part is the neurons, and this is the axon. The axons are bind with each other by help of the oligodendroglia or oligodendrocytes. Okay, and the microglia are the phagocytic cells. You know, so astrocytes, star-shaped, forms blood-brain barrier. They appear like a small body with a numerous process. This is how the astrocytes look in a light microscope. Numerous process around the cell body. These are astrocytes and these are axons. These long fibers are axon fibers. You know they are supporting cells and they are responsible for, note this point for objective point of view. In case of injury, accumulation of astrocytes around the neurons is called as gliosis. Accumulation of astrocytes is called as gliosis. Accumulation of oligodendroglia is called as cytolytosis, and accumulation of microglia is called as neuronophagia. So it will come in objective the term gliosis. You can see in this diagram the focal gliosis, that is the accumulation of astrocytes. Here you can also see these star-shaped cells are all astrocytes. So in a view, when there are a number of astrocytes, it means it is the case of gliosis. Also, from objective point of view, is that in case of canine distemper, In case of canine distemper, this is a viral infection in dogs. If you see the histopathology of brain, you will see the presence of inclusion body inside the astrocytes, which is called as gametoscytes. So it can also come in your objective in exam. Gametoscytes are nothing. These are the astrocytes with inclusion body in case of canine distemper. In this diagram, you can see this is the neuron, this is the neuron, this is the nucleus, and in the cytoplasm, you can see, sorry, inside the nucleus, you can see it is internuclear. Actually, inclusion body in case of canine distemper is internuclear. So inside the nucleus of neuron, you will see the uh, presence of inclusion body, which is called as astrocytes. This is the diagram of a astrocytes, and this dot is the structure, which is the inclusion body. So it is common finding in case of canine distemper. Next, oligodendroglaya or oligodendrocytes, they are responsible for formation of myelin sheath, myelinated neurons, myelin sheath around the axons. So the role of oligodendrocytes are formation of myelin sheath, and therefore in the process of degeneration or damage to the axons particularly, you will see the accumulation of oligodendrocytes around the degenerating axons, which is called as satellitosis. It is in the process to repair the uh, terminal axons which has been got damaged. Okay. Next is the macroglia. These appear as spider-like, very spider-like, and they are phagocytic. They are phagocytic in function. In this diagram, you can see this black, which has been shown by this green arrow. This black area is the microglia. Black area is the microglia. And one also cell, one important cell is also ependymal cells. Ependymal cells lines the cavities of the brain and spinal cord. In the lateral phenomena, when in this third ventricles, lateral ventricles, you can see the presence of ependymal cells. So there is not much role of ependymal cells in veterinary medicine. We do not study detail about the ependymal cells in veterinary medicine. Okay. One important point is that in objective you may be asked Gitter cells. What is this Gitter cells? So Gitter cells are nothing but these are the microglia which has become hypertrophied and hyperplasia. There is proliferation of the microglia and hypertrophy of the microglia around the degenerating neurons. This is called as Gitter cells. Important term, Gitter cells. These are microglial cells. Okay, these Gitter cells or microglia can also be seen in the perivascular cupping. So in this diagram, you see these are the microglial cells. These are the microglial cells containing blackish bluish granules. Blackish bluish granules. It is what you call as Gitter cells. Okay. So Gitter cells stands for microglial cells. Next is hydrocephalus. So hydrocephalus is nothing but is the accumulation of CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, in the brain. Hydro means water. Here water is CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, and cephalus stands for brain. So when there is CSF in the brain, but when the accumulation is abnormally high, it is called as hydrocephalus. In this diagram, you see this is the uh, ventricle of the brain normally, but in case of hydrocephalus, you see these ventricles are enlarged. Due to enlargement, nearby the cells are showing inflammatory condition, which has been depicted by red pinkish color. So this is normal brain, this is hydrocephalic brain, but this is internal hydrocephalus. The accumulation of CSF in the ventricles is called as internal hydrocephalus. So it can be congenital. It may be uh, after birth also due to deficiency of vitamin A. due to obstruction in some pathways. It can be due to some infection also, some deficiency of folic acid also, due to some Toxoplasma gondii, a parasite also, that can lead to congenital hydrocephalus. And as I was telling you, the hydrocephalus may be internal or external. If the abnormal accumulation of CSF occurs inside the ventricles, it is called as internal. If it occurs inside the subdural space or subarachnoid space, it is called as external hydrocephalus. Okay. So the cause of internal hydrocephalus may be obstruction of the foramen of Monro, aqueduct of Sylvius, foramen of Lasca, because it is important for circulation of the CSF going out of the CSF from the ventricles to the subarachnoid space. If these foramina are being obstructed, there will be internal hydrocephalus. Some parasite like Parotid cinereus, some tumors, some inflammatory condition may lead to blockage of these foramina. Regarding external hydrocephalus, it is usually acquired. It is usually seen after birth, either due to more formation of the CSF or not being drained by the arachnoid villi. It leads to the accumulation of CSF inside the subarachnoid space, leading to external hydrocephalus. Next is traumatic injury to the nervous system. One condition is concussion. When the injury to the brain, some outside injury to the brain or to the skull is very sharp, very blunt blow, and very sudden, but not leading to fracture of the brain, but fracture of the bone, but damage in the brain, it is called as concussion. So if you got a sudden sharp blow on the head, on the skull, that is going to damage the brain, not the bone, it is called as concussion. So if you have idea, in brain there is countercoup injury. Countercoup injury means if there is injury in the front side, if there is some blow on the front side of the brain of the skull, there will be damage in the front side along with the back side. First of all, there will be damage in the front part of the brain, and due to presence of CSF around the brain moves backward and it gets struck on its backside also. This is called as countercoup injury. So if there will be damage, some blow on the backside, damage will be seen in the front side. If there is some blow on the front side, damage will be seen in the backside. This is important injury type in the case of brain, that is called as counter coup injury. Maybe it may be concussion or maybe laceration. It is called as counter coup. Okay? This term is important, counter coup injury. What does it means? It means that if there is some blow on the front side, the brain will even injure on the back side. And if there is some blow on the back side, the brain will also show injury on the front side. Maybe some concussion or maybe laceration. Laceration is loss of the superficial part of the tissue. This is called as laceration. Next is epilepsy. Epilepsy is sudden, brief, prolonged loss of consciousness preceded by convulsions. In simple terms, it is called as fits. And you are aware of this term, epilepsy. So what is this? This is the brief or prolonged loss of consciousness followed by convulsions. Okay. Next is coma. Coma is complete loss of consciousness. When whole responses of the body is lost, it is called as coma. Regarding meningitis, I have covered it, pachymeningitis, leptomeningitis. This is a special case in case of rabies. In case of rabies, in the cytoplasm of the neurons, you can see the